Welcome to Nestology. We are your hosts. I'm Jessica.
And I'm Shelley.
And today we have a special guest with us. Actually, someone Shelley knows really well. So I'm going to let you do the introduction.
Yes, absolutely. Well, Mark is with Bartlett Tree Experts. He has personally worked on my trees, and I was very impressed with his level of service. That's one of the things that Jessica and I always talk about. It's like trying to find like-minded service people. And I think I remember telling you that like in the very beginning, like I don't normally make that comment. I don't know if you remember me saying that to you, but I was like, oh my gosh, I really love your attitude and how you respond. And that's something that is near and dear to Jessica and I's hearts. We are
Yes.
always trying to work with people who work like us and are going to treat our clients the same way, right? So, Jessica's in real estate, I'm in mortgages. And so we deal with a lot of homeowners. And that's why we thought we would have you on here so we could learn a little more about trees, because I think most people, my opinion is, I don't think most people really know what to do with their trees and how to take care of them. So, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Yeah. I mean, you're totally right. Trees, more often than not, kind of seem like an afterthought when people are buying their houses, and then they get a couple of years down the road, and they're like, "Okay, I got these giant living things in my property. What do I do? How do I prune them? How do I take care of them?" So it's always a surprise, but it's always fun to take on the challenge with every new homeowner. But like you said, my name is Mark. I've been an arborist with Bartlett for going on 6 years now, and I take care of pretty much the 35 corridor of the Metroplex. And we have 9 other arborists that work with us that each take different sections so that we can be more present for our clients and kind of be hands-on in the property, diagnosing, treating, pruning, and anything else they need.
Okay, so you guys have been around a long time as far as the company, right? I think I
Yes,
read since 1907.
yes. I'm really grateful to work for a company with that kind of, pedigree, I guess. Because we're always all learning, and having a bunch of seniors that were ahead of me helping me out in training and always there for questions, we're able to give our clients better service because of pretty much our bench, all the people that we got working with us. So it's been a ride.
Absolutely.
The knowledge and expertise, it's so important.
Yes,
Absolutely.
absolutely. So, like, what what sets you guys apart? I can't even say this without laughing. What sets you guys apart from just like, a guy with a chainsaw and a truck?
Yeah. So the way I like to think about it is I'm more of we're not just tree cutters, we're kind of like a tree doctor. So when I go out to a new property, I talk to the homeowner and I kind of get an idea of what their goals are for having me out. And then going on from there, I kind of let them know what I'm seeing long term. So when we prune a tree, I'm not pruning to cut this, be done, and never talk to you again. I'm making these cuts because this is going to set us up for the next round that we're going to do as that tree grows in the next, 3 years.
I know. I remember specifically you telling me on a couple of my live oaks, they're still relatively small, but I remember you saying, listen, if we, prune this now, they'll grow the right way. It's
Mhm.
easier to do it now than it would be down the road. And so I never even thought, I was like, oh, those don't need to be trimmed. But when you explained it to me, I was like, they do. They really, really do.
Yeah.
Well, not just the trimming, but planting. Builders are the worst about that. They plant them in the worst places
Play in
because,
between little 5
yes,
foot
the
space.
sidewalks, because they're going to be gone in 5 years. The builder will, and they don't have to deal with the aftermath of it. So,
Y- Yeah.
Absolutely.
One of the things we see is like, I'm sure you guys have heard of Bradford pears.
oh,
They're the builder favorite. You put them in the ground, they grow, and then they survive for like 30 years and they start falling apart on people. And yeah, it's the long-term view is what's really
yes.
valuable with when you're planning your landscape.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know originally I had you out because there was, I forget what it was, but there was something going on with the trees in my neighborhood. They were having some kind of bugs, or I don't know what it was now.
I think
But
your first call
the
was the stump.
it was the stump. Yeah,
People weren't
Oh,
because
showing
the
up.
wind blew over my dead tree in one of the storms. Yeah, it was, I'm trying to stay alive, and then apparently it was not. It just fell right over. I caught it on my camera. So yeah, the stump, and then it was like something, I don't know what it was that was going on. And so you helped with my all the trees basically, 'cause it turned into not just helping me with the stump or whatever was going on with my trees, but trimming all the rest of them to make sure that long term they were not going to be damaging my house because they're so close. Like you said, Jessica, like the builders are
yeah.
planning them so close. So What are some early warning signs that people need to like look out for? Because I was really surprised by what happened to my trees. I'm like, oh, it's just shedding or something. And I had no idea what was going on. And people, I think in general, really don't know.
Yeah, yeah. So trees are, they're living things. So they can usually, and they're tough. So they can usually handle one or maybe two things when they start to build up with like drought stress or overwatering or a pest or disease pressure or, growing in that not so great soil. But as those things start to accumulate over time, that impacts the plant's vitality. And then you see something in the canopy. So I'd say, or as far as early warning signs, it'd be best to have somebody, or, you can go on Google, get to know your species and what's supposed to look right, and kind of what to look out for, so you can get ahead of as many of those things as possible to set your trees up for success.
What is one of the common things that you see like in this area that like maybe a pest that people may not be familiar with?
Well, this year we've had a banner year for something called bagworms.
Oh,
Yeah, a lot of pests are they're pretty cyclical. So we had bad outbreaks this year where a bunch of eastern red cedars are just loaded up with those bags from those worms. But the year before it was a little more minimal. The year before that, I don't know if I saw any. So it's not something you can just set and forget. You got to kind of keep an eye on it. Mites are another big one. They're a little bit more easy to tell when you got them. They get that bronzing kind of look on the leaves versus the nice, pretty green ones that we all want to have. But yeah, and crepe myrtles, those are another favorite in the DFW area because they flower regardless and they grow pretty much anywhere. But the big things they get are crepe myrtle bark scale and aphids, and those pests, they have a fun little side effect where they have honeydew that rains down from the canopy as they feed on your tree. And then that sugar can attract ants and it'll make your sidewalk sticky and your tree is going to get covered in mold and things just kind of start to spiral.
I've had that happen where I walk under a crepe myrtle and I thought it rained on me.
Yep,
Is
that's
that
it.
what that is?
That is aphid poop.
Gross. It's like aphid slime.
Yep.
Oh, it's like, is it raining? I'm like, oh, goodness. Okay. Okay. What do you do about those things? Call
So
you, obviously, but
at Bartlett, we kind of focus on when we treat for pests, we want to target the target pest. We don't want to affect any beneficial insects as much as possible to keep the landscape alive and thriving. So to treat for those, we would do a canopy spray to get control. Other, non-flowering trees, we can use systemics to kind of offer protection for a full year. But it really is a case-by-case basis and getting to know the species and the potential ramifications of what you apply.
goodness. What do you get called out for the most, would you say?
Probably like after the freeze in 2021, we had a lot of live oaks take some damage, and there's bark that starts to slough off
Yeah.
over time as the tree compartmentalizes that damage. So people are like, "Why is my tree falling apart?" So
We
yeah,
had that to all of our oaks.
yeah.
All had that, yeah, bare spots all over the tree. No,
Interesting.
yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So, like, I mean, what's the percent? I mean, maybe you can't answer this, but like, once a tree starts declining, is there kind of a point of no return, or can most things be salvaged?
That's a good question. My marker that I look for is right around 25% of the canopy. If it's like fully lost 25% of the canopy or more, we have an uphill battle. But there's a lot of factors to consider. Mostly the tree's age. A young tree is able to bounce back from those kind of stressors a lot better than a mature one would. So our odds are better based on the vitality of the tree, what the specific issue we're dealing with is, and a lot of times we can rehabilitate trees, and those are my favorite stories, driving through neighborhoods of, I remember dealing with that nightmare 3 years ago, and now it's a beautiful tree on the block. So
That's so cool. You got your success stories. I love that. You remember the trees. Do you name them?
I have clients that name them, and we have a system in our computer, and like I'm gonna put in the name instead of the species,
Aw.
just
Do
for
you
fun.
really?
Yeah, yeah, just for
Oh
fun.
my gosh, that's so cute. I love that. I don't think I've ever named my trees, but I might now.
People say
That's
talking to
awesome.
trees or plants, they grow better. So who knows? Might be a wise
I
tale.
have heard that. Exactly. I used to, my daughter would laugh if she was listening, but I have been known to like walk around high five with trees, like, not like in an aggressive way, but like, hey, how you doing? Like high five the trees.
Thanks for the shade. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, like thank it and, just be kind.
My son is obsessed with gardening and plants, and he has been able to grow things even in sand. Down at the beach, he grew something in cups of sand that he collected. I don't know how he did it, but he has taken little solo cups of seedlings on walks with us and talked to them. So I'm going to say it works because his care and conversations with his plants make him grow.
Yep.
So
Could be a future arborist.
it probably, yes.
And speaking of like, how did you get into this business?
So it's a kind of a funny story. I went to school for environmental science at the University of Minnesota in Duluth, and I was always thinking I want to do something with like hydrology or soil science or something like that. And my dad was a park ranger. He was a forester, and we'd always pick on him for talking about tree stuff when we were growing up. And then I moved to Dallas, and I started working here at Bartlett, and I was, doing treatments and pruning trees for them, and they were training me, and they were like, this would be a good fit for you. You seem like you enjoy it here. And now he will not let me live that down, that I became exactly what I want to be.
Great story. I love that. So you have a certain certification?
Yes, ISA certified arborist. And then with
What does that
that,
mean?
we have to keep up credentials. We go through trainings every year to keep up with the standards of the science. Because like the thing I was
Really?
mentioning about crepe myrtles, it used to be all the time people would apply systemics on them. And then the research lab at Bartlett was like, we want to not impact the pollinators. So we had to go through retraining of what new treatment to do.
Mm.
So staying up to date is important because I still see some clients, they'll call me out and they're like, oh yeah, my arborist from 30 years ago used to do this. And that is,
Mm.
things have changed.
Things definitely do change. And that's interesting. I didn't realize that you are doing like annual trainings as well. Jessica and I also have,
Yeah.
I've got 8 hours of continuing ed for my job. And Jessica, you've got what? How many hours?
I don't even know anymore.
A lot.
It's a lot, but yeah, you have to stay on top of it.
Well,
Mhm.
yeah. I mean, when you're a professional, it's like that's one of the things I think is important, right? You are staying on top of things and, being in the current and the now.
Yeah.
So, okay. So what about things like a lot of times in our industry, we see like trees that maybe are close to roof lines and that could be falling or damage a neighbor's property. Like, do you know any of those rules, like about who's responsible if a tree falls and damages a neighbor's, like who's responsible for it? Or I don't know what I'm trying to ask here, but like, I have this tree, one of my neighbors, it's like the tree grew over, part
Oh,
of
yeah.
my property, right? And I wanted it trimmed, but then it's like I couldn't just go trim her tree. So it's like, do people get in fights over these kind of things?
You know, Thankfully, in my travels, people are usually pretty good neighbors and they are usually pretty accommodating to each other because legally, if it's growing over your property line, you have the right to prune it. So,
Do.
yes, there are some people, I always advise against it, but they can just cut it straight up and down the property line. But that could invite more issues by making improper pruning cuts. And then you put that tree under stress. And now both you and your neighbor have a worse issue than if you'd worked together to kind of get the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
Do you ever get involved with like homeowners insurance type of things regarding trees?
So, yeah, insurance companies are always fun to, hear what they
Oh,
want
yeah.
because a lot of
Yes.
times they'll, pull up their Google Maps and see like, oh, there's this tree that's just growing over the house without even looking at it and be like, now your premium is going up or something. So they'll the homeowner will call me out and I can take a look at the branch unions, the health of the tree, and of course, act of God, we don't know if or when a storm will come and knock something down, but we can gauge the risk level of a tree, based on its health and like how the branches join to the stem and that kind
Wow, I didn't realize you could do that. That's something I need to keep in mind. Insurance has gotten so wild, and
Mm.
we hear things all the time. Yes, they'll look at pictures online and make assumptions about things. So I didn't realize you could have a health report and evaluation on it.
I don't know if they even look at them, but like I've just had a homeowner or two be like,
It's worth a try.
yeah, can you give me just like a health status of this tree? And I'll be like, oh,
Yeah.
sure, I can do that. And then they send it off, and then they haven't talked to me since. So I'm assuming things went okay. So
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, so like we always like to ask, if there are any funny stories or things that like stick out, or like are there some like dangerous things that you see homeowners attempting to do themselves that the experts should be doing?
gosh, scary story. We had the big storm. I think it was 2 years ago. It was straight line winds, and there was a Bradford pear that just split in half, and the stump was sitting there, and then half of it was sitting on the homeowner's house. And if you've never cut trees before, there's pressure that builds up when it hits something and how it like lines up with the house. So the homeowner decided they were going to cut it, and they had their wife holding a rope or something. And when they made the cut, the branch swung down and it hit her right in the head. She's okay. She's okay.
Goodness.
And
Okay.
then, but that's why he actually called us out to be like, yeah, you guys are going to have to deal with this. So, and I'm really grateful he did, because yeah, some of those things can get pretty complicated. So better to have a professional do it.
Oh my gosh, that reminded me. I hadn't even thought about it. When you talked about the guy with the truck and a chainsaw, that's my husband. He went and helped. He and his uncle went to go help a friend who has some property and had a huge tree that needed to be cut down. And he did exactly that. He was on a ladder cutting a branch. And yes, it broke the wrong way, swung down and knocked the ladder out from under him. And he went flying off the ladder. So, yeah,
That's a
don't
pretty
attempt
good
yourself.
That's a good disclaimer. If you hire an arborist and they bring out ladders to get up in your trees and they're not climbing, you should probably have them stop pruning your trees.
But now he'll learn his lesson for next time and call Mark. So,
My goodness. Well, okay. So talking about taking care of your trees, like how often should you have them pruned or inspected? Is there a maintenance schedule that homeowners really should be looking at for their trees?
Yeah. So with my clients, I schedule an evaluation annually, and you can always call me throughout the year if things come up, because things usually come up. But I always go out annually to be like, okay, we need to prune this year, or they look good from pruning last year. Let's wait a couple of years. But it would really vary again based on the age, the species, and kind of what we're dealing with as far as pest and disease on property. Young trees, usually we end up pruning those every year or two, and on more mature trees, I'd say every 2 or 3. The mature trees, a lot of that time is just restoring clearance for the house, for the driveway, that kind of thing, because you don't want to stress the tree out with making too big of cuts. But the young ones, when we're making structural cuts where we are, stopping vertically intruding growth or crossing and rubbing branches, codominant stems, that kind of thing, we can make those corrections a little more because the plant's growing a lot more because it's so young.
And then like certain times of year, I'm assuming like maybe summer's
spring.
not a great time
Right.
to be trimming the trees.
Yes, by the book, the best time to prune is going to be in the fall or winter time.
Is that because the trees are really stressed here in Texas in the summertime with the heat and all that?
So the way that I like to think about it is, in the spring, they just did all that work. They used all that energy to push out all those leaves to photosynthesize and build carbohydrates. And then immediately we bring in tree pruners, just start cutting the branches off. Yeah, think about it from the tree's point of view. It's like, I just did all that, but you usually
I have never thought about it from the tree's point of view.
you
Like,
usually
do they have
see
feelings? I
a
don't know.
flush
He
of
just
what's
works so
called
hard.
epicormic growth, those like little sprouts that are growing off the stem.
Hmm.
Uh-huh.
You usually see that after that kind of a pruning. And even, a normal one, because the tree's like, well, I kind of wanted those leaves, so I'm going to put them back somewhere.
Okay. All right. Do you have maintenance plans
Yeah.
that you put people on?
So the pruning stuff is prescriptive. I have to look at that every year, see how they responded to our cuts. The pest management and soil care, where we do fertilization, that one is a little bit more consistent, where we take a soil sample from your property, we send it to the lab. The lab's like, okay, your soil is low in iron or manganese, or you need to add additional nitrogen. And then we will make a formula based on your soil, and then, use that and treat it every year as needed.
I feel like most of the trees of course, the builders just slap it into clay soil.
Yes.
They don't put anything in there. So
Yep.
I feel like our soil is probably missing a
Awful.
lot of things.
Yeah, we have pretty nasty clay soil in a lot of places, that in, builder grade soil, have you seen those backhoes that go in there and then they just scrape away any of the little bit of good soil we had here in Texas, and then the tree is trying to grow in that, nutrient void soil. So anything we can do to help it out is great. The number one thing that I'd recommend, though, especially on young ones, is something called root invigoration, where we can actually kind of correct some of those issues with clay soil by blowing compressed air into the soil to break up that compacted soil and
Yeah.
let air in there. So let those fine feeder roots grow and get organics in there. And, trees love that. They go crazy after root and degradation treatment.
They do? Is it like a spa treatment for them?
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it.
It sounds like to
Oh,
me. So we did have something like also in my neighborhood. It was like the HOA is responsible for mulching in the front, and they were like mulching so high up on these trees that it was like killing them or something. It was doing something to the trees. I don't know exactly what it does, but like, isn't mulch supposed to be like kind of lower, not like high up on the tree?
Yes, that's a great point. So mulch is one of the best things you can do for your tree, but you don't want to do what we call volcano mulching, where you pile a whole bunch of mulch and it goes up the stem, because that's holding moisture against that bark tissue, and you can kind of have rotting issues at that
oh
point.
yeah.
So
Okay,
spreading it out so that the root flare is visible above ground, and you can usually tell that by it kind of looks like the bottom of a wine glass as it joins the ground.
good way of thinking about that. Yeah, so they had to fix it. Everybody was going out and digging up the mulch and moving it around because everybody's trees started having some issues
Yeah.
because they did the volcano thing, I guess.
Yeah, during
Oh my
And
planting
goodness.
you mentioned, sorry, go ahead.
no, no. During planting is a really important time to be keeping an eye on when things go in, because I've also seen planters where they come in these wire and like these burlap bags and everything, and they'll just stick them right in the ground, and then those roots will just girdle around themselves in one spot, and then that tree has a much more limited lifespan because it can't spread out in its new home.
Right. I was going to ask about watering because you mentioned overwatering. Do you see much of that? People overwatering? I
Yeah.
would think here in Texas with the heat that people are not watering enough.
It really depends on the landscape, because you have to consider the slope, where if you're at the top of the hill or the bottom of the hill, what kind of soil you have. If you have clay soil, it's going to kind of sit there like a bowl, and it can cause those rot issues, versus the sand,
Oh
it's
yeah.
going to drain away a little better. And you also got to consider the species, because the native ones can, they handle the drought a little bit better here, versus some of those ornamentals, or things that we bring
Yeah.
in may have a harder time and need some additional water.
Gotcha.
Okay. So when we were kind of like thinking about, having you on and we were trying to think of some things like, to that our listeners might need to know, like what is cabling and bracing on a tree and when does it need that as opposed to just being removed? And are
Yeah.
you like, and when somebody says, "Oh, I need to take this tree out," I know, like I had a little, what was it, red oak in my backyard, and I'm like, this, it's like half dead, and you're like, no, no, we can save it. So you're like, no, keep it.
Yeah,
I
because
had that on a property recently where it's a large property and the buyer said, "Hey, these 3 trees look dead, remove them all." And my client, he was like, "Whoa, you don't just go and remove them. Have someone look. Maybe there's a plan." So,
yeah, and an established tree, I think, is always worth a shot to save over
yeah.
replanting, because it's got an established root system already. If you replant something, you spend all that money on cutting it down and putting in a new one. There's no guarantees that the new one is going to take in that new spot. So something that's established is usually at least worth a shot before you
Yeah.
go to the basil cut and just cut it right to the ground.
I really wish you could get with builders and put trees where they belong and the right kind of trees because that is so frustrating for homeowners, especially like I know, like in my neighborhood, they planted live oaks between the street and the sidewalk,
Yeah.
and there's like no space.
That's how they did mine too.
Oh
They're
my gosh! And then
they're
they start
repaving.
buckling.
Yes, our neighborhood is 15 years old for the street that I'm on, and the city is repaving this week all the sidewalks because they're all buckling and breaking. It's
Oh
awful.
my gosh! So, are there certain kind of trees that you would say, "Hey, don't plant this kind of tree near the home that might impact foundations or sidewalks, things like that."
Yeah, I mean, near the home, you should definitely go for a small size tree, because a lot of people, they'll builders and new homeowners, they'll see like at the nursery something called like a little gem magnolia, and it's this big, and then they put it right in front of their house, and then 10 years down the road it's as tall as their house is, and that root system can impact the house foundation for sure. Clay soils are usually the bigger risk, but doing what you can to plant a more ornamental tree in front of a house, like a red bud or like a Mexican plum, something like that, is a much better idea than putting a live oak right there, where you're gonna
Yeah.
run into issues down the road.
Absolutely, absolutely. So what are your thoughts about the, I guess, new construction and, I mean, I guess who does that? I get like the landscape crew just picks trees out, and like I don't understand how they pick the wrong trees all the time. They need to have somebody, like you that knows about these kind of trees and how big they're going to get.
Well, I can
Do
tell
you
you.
work with any builders? Like,
Oh,
you should.
yes, they should hire an expert. I can tell you, I see it all the time. They don't even know what tree was just planted. We'll ask the builder. We'll tell him before closing, this tree looks awful. Can you tell us what it is so we can start to come up with a plan and try to save it? And they're like, I don't know. It's just whatever they have that week. The truck will come through with all the trees and they just plop whatever was available.
Yeah, there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen at that point when they're building out those new neighborhoods, and those cooks kind of have competing interests. So there's what the city wants, there's what the builder wants, there's what the homeowner wants, and the landscape architect. So at some point, usually it's within the city mandates that certified arborist is involved. We can kind of assist in species selection and consulting on that kind of thing. And I think it really does make a world of difference, because some of those, a builder is like, I'm just going to buy bulk 100 trees of the same species. But if, say, for some reason they planted 100 ash trees and we have emerald ash borer come through, every tree in your neighborhood is now going to die because of one pest. So biodiversity is important too.
Interesting. Okay, so what is the most underrated thing that a homeowner can do for their trees right now that people just don't think about, that's really simple that they should be doing besides water? Or we didn't really talk so much about the overwatering thing. I guess I'm still not sure, like, how do you know if you're overwatering a tree?
So tree roots, they don't go down as deep as you think. The fine feeder roots, usually about a meter deep. If you ever seen like after a hurricane where the root plate is all flipped up, it's not this like big giant stem that goes down to China. It's just one little the plate. So that in mind, you can kind of figure out how much soil moisture is in your soil. I use like a Dutch auger where I'll drill down and get like a plug of soil, and I can see the layers in it of what you have at the deepest level and the top level and how moist it is throughout. And we can get a pretty good idea of what you're doing. And then from there, take a look at your irrigation system and advise on anything there.
Gotcha. Yeah. Speaking of irrigation systems, what's your thought on those underground watering ones?
The drip
I asked
irrigation?
that. Yeah, because my, HOA runs over them constantly, and, they end up like the soil erodes around them, and I don't feel like they water as good. Like, I feel like I just want to go back to the old school rotors or go get my own sprinkler and just put it out there.
There is some logic in drip irrigation if everything goes as planned. But, I walk through the same neighborhoods you do. I see them exposed and there's a hole in them here and there, and, an animal pulls them up or something. So in theory, they're great because, they're conserving water and putting it right where it needs to be instead of just broadcasting everywhere. But in practice, the life kind of gets in the way sometimes. So if you can control for those things, drip definitely has its place.
You're not losing all your water to the sidewalk or the street.
Well, that's true. But then I had a situation where I didn't know it was leaking because you can't see it. And then until I get the, $700 water bill, and then didn't realize I had like 20 leaks.
Oh no.
But you can't see them is the problem. It runs in the middle of the night. So I know you're not irrigation, but
I was thinking the same thing. You might need to have an irrigation guy too, because that comes out and inspects annually.
Yes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree. So, well, do you have like a particular like tree mistake that you see people make over and over again? Is there anything that we need to know or homeowners need to know?
Yeah, one of the big ones, like with pruning, like the guy with the ladder, kick him out and get him gone. But the other one is a practice called lion's tailing, where when they prune, they take out the entire center of the tree, and all you're left with are these tufts at the end. So one, you're taking away a whole bunch of branch structure that we could use for reduction cuts in the future or successor branches. Two, you're taking away leaf structure the tree can use to photosynthesize and protect itself from sun scald. And three, you're making these giant levers where there's all this weight on one end of the branch, and when the wind blows, you're at a higher risk of them just falling apart. So it's definitely worth it to have the tree pruned naturally instead of just stripped out and then don't worry about it for 5 years.
That reminds me of what they do to the crepe myrtles.
Crepe murder.
Like, I don't understand that. Like, yeah, what did you call it?
Crepe murder.
Crepe
Great murder.
Yes. Like, what? I don't understand the thinking.
Uh,
Why do people do that?
So, fun fact about crepe myrtles, they only bloom on new growth. So if you cut off the entire top of the tree, everything that you have is new growth. So you're guaranteed flowers every year. And you're also kind of keeping it at a height. So it's like an ornamental plant. Because
yeah.
I mean, I've seen crepe myrtles get up to 2 stories and more.
Yeah.
So they can outgrow their location. So I see why people think to do it, but it's definitely not good for the tree.
Gotcha.
Okay, that's what I was wondering because I see it a lot, and
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd always be scared to do that to mine,
Yes.
but apparently it's raining aphids on me, so maybe I need to have it trimmed. I need to have you out, Mark. I guess I didn't know I had aphids. Yeah, so everybody needs to know if your trees are dripping on you, you might have bugs.
What about for diseases, oak wilt? Are you still seeing a lot of that? Because I know my in-laws had it at their property.
So oak wilt is very, very bad in places like Austin, San Marcos, that it's everywhere. Up here, we don't see it as much. So
Okay.
there it is in hot spots, but it can only spread from root to root contact, or if there's a fresh
Mm.
pruning cut and then a beetle
Yeah.
brings the fungus from an infected tree to another one. So and beetles can't fly super far. So it's important that if you think you have oak wilt to get it tested, because it may be something else.
Okay.
And yeah, a lot of people, they'll just be like, oh nope, it's oak wilt because Google said so, and then that's the end of the story. They cut the tree down, or you
Yeah.
have that treated every year. But with
Yeah, I'm not sure if we may have misjudged something on properties that we saw, but my in-laws, I'm not sure if they had theirs tested, but they were losing a ton of trees as it spread through they have 3 acres and it spread through their property and they lost a ton of trees from that.
yeah, it's I'd be interested to hear more of the story, because
Yeah.
white oaks and red
Yes.
oaks, like different afflictions can kind of look like it. Because I had even a tree website, I'm not going to say names or anything, but they had a picture of hypoxyl and canker, and under it just said oak wilt, and I'm like, okay, well, I mean, those aren't the same thing, but it's
Wow.
Maybe I'm
important.
going to have you out to take a look and see if we were correct with that one. So,
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, okay, Mark, I don't know if you have kids or not, and if you're allowed to say your favorite trees, like you can't say your favorite kid.
Mm.
Not that we have favorite kids, but I'm just saying. So if you were to pick like your favorite tree to plant, what would it be and why?
So I think my favorite tree would be the chinkapin oak. So they are a white oak species. So they're slow growers, but they have really solid wood and these really beautiful shade leaves. They have more manageable acorn size compared to like a bur oak, but they're showstoppers as far as shade trees go, and as far as adding
Hmm.
value to a property, because they're long lived. They're good, solid trees. A sycamore would be another one of my favorites, but mostly just because the bark is so unique. That white bark is really pretty. So
We may have to put some of those photos on
yes, I will. I'll look some of those
on our
up and
site.
put them on
Cool.
Facebook.
Oh my goodness. Well, so Jessica, do you have any other questions?
No, I don't.
Any
So,
other stories you want to share with us, Mark?
the rest of them are all the crazy, like the crane removals from storms, and the
but yes, we want to hear
craziness.
the crazy. Yeah.
Ooh, crazy.
Share
Yeah.
crazy
Share
stories.
a crazy story.
Yeah. So we Bartlett will go out and will help when we have offices that are smaller, like say in New Orleans, and the hurricanes come through. So we'll be on site to help with all the crazy storm response and all of the damage all over the place. But even locally, we've had a couple of jobs where a tree is just growing straight over the house, and it's a huge diameter trunk to where we can't safely climb it and rig it down without risking damage to the house. So in order to do that, we have to bring in a crane, and then the crane will set up in the neighborhood on the street, and climber will tie it in the branch they want to cut. They kind of got to measure the weight of what it's going to be, what the crane can handle, and then they make the cut. The crane picks it up, and it's just this giant tree just flying over neighborhoods
Wow.
to get it cleaned up. So
Wow.
it's those ones are always, crane days are fun days, but they're kind of a little bit
I love
worrying.
it.
Yeah, for you guys, and I'm sure that like the neighbors too, watching the branch just floating up above their house.
It's
Don't drop it.
the event of the
Oh
neighborhood.
my gosh. Yeah. Well, where can our listeners like find you? Like a website? We're going to have all your information listed, but if you want to mention, your website and things like that, where can they find you?
Yeah. So if you just go on Bartlett.com and you can put in your zip code, it'll send you to the local office, and then the local office will set up an appointment with the arborist for your zip code, and they'll get you taken care of from there. Once we kind of set up a relationship, I'm usually just texting or calling my clients, but the first round of things we usually have the office start setting everybody up.
Perfect. All right. Well, we'll have that linked in the show notes, and then we'll put it on our social medias too. And I'm going to have to find pictures and share your favorite trees
I
on there
know. I
too.
want to see what they look like too.
Yes.
I'm excited about that. So, no, this has been really, really great. And, when we were thinking about having one, I was like, this is something that most people don't think about. They just think
Yep.
about, or just going to water their tree and that's it. So, there's a little more to it.
There is.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit more. So, well, good. I hope that some people reach out to you with regards to the trees and stuff. And thank you for your time today.
Of course, it was
Perfect.
great to see you guys.
Thank you so much. And for our listeners, like I said, I'll put this on our social media. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Nestology Podcast.
Well, thank you for joining us, where we hope you make the best of your nest.
Bye.
Bye.